Chinese armored vehicle from peacekeeping infantry battalion in South Sudan was on a Kepler mission and the United Nations mission in South Sudan on July 10, 2016. It came under artillery attack. Chinese soldiers Yang Shupeng, 33, and Li Lei, 22, were killed in the attack. Wearing a sky blue helmet with the UN logo and the earth and olive armband, the United Nations peacekeeping force can recognize at first glance. How much trouble do UN peacekeeping force war mediators have to face? As a violent organ of the state, militaries may tasks to defend national sovereignty, resist invasion, and wage war against other countries. On the contrary, the primary goal of UN troops is not to wage war, but to maintain peace and stability. As an armed force composed of soldiers from multiple countries, it operates under the authority and command of the United Nations, with the goal of stopping conflicts and maintaining peace. When the first UN peacekeeping force was established, Hampshire, the UN Secretary-General, introduced the principles of peacekeeping, consent of parties, impartiality, and non-use force except in self-defense and defense of the matter. Firstly, a peacekeeping operation must be approved by at least 9 of the 15 members of the Security Council or General Assembly, with no votes against by the permanent fight. This is why we rarely see peacekeeping forces in conflicts in which permanent members are directly involved, and in conflicts involving some countries and their proxy wars. A veto by a permanent member can end an operation. Turning to non-use of force except in self-defense and defensive mandate. As peacekeeping operations are fundamentally different from warfare, peacekeeping forces can use weapons and tactical level only in self-defense or with a UN mandate. The forceful measures that can be taken are also in accordance with the principles. A self-defense rule states that peacekeeping troops can only carry small arms on missions, and if they use force against the principle, it may trigger new chaos and conflicts. In 1992, warlords in Somalia believed that UNOSOM-1 was impeding their seizure of power and repeatedly ambushed peacekeepers. The Spartan weapon caused dozens of casualties among peacekeepers. 1 year later, in UNOSOM-2, the Security Council decided to authorize the US-led peacekeeping force to use all necessary means to arrest and aid a warlord. 2 helicopters crashed and 19 US Marines were killed. President Clinton announced the withdrawal and also adjusted the policy, announcing a ban on US troops participating in non-US-led military operations. A year after the failure of UNOSOM-2 witnessed the world-shaking Rwanda genocide, the UN Security Council finally voted to intervene. Only 260 peacekeepers were retained for ceasefire supervision. Their negative performance drew public outcry, but that was where impartiality requires. Peacekeeping forces can take sides in a conflict, much less interfering in internal affairs of a country. Massacre is an extreme national activity. If the peacekeepers rush to stop it, it would mean a conflict with Rwanda, which is clearly against impartiality. Imagine you're a peacekeeper in an unfamiliar country where both sides of conflict were fighting with heavy machine guns and RPGs. According to impartiality, you can't take sides, but your legal civilians made them all happy and they're ready to attack you. Based on non-use of force except in self-defense and defensive method, you can't shoot first. By the time the gun went off, might have been shot. War follows new rules. That's no wonder peacekeeping troops with limits struggle there. As the international situation becomes increasingly complex, there are many political games outside the rules and enter war mediators into fence stragglers. In 1999, NATO formed peacekeeping force 2 sides in operation in the former Yugoslavia, fearing the Albanians in Kosovo. They were not fighting for human rights, but to teach the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia a lesson and brought the region under NATO control. These are common operations. After World War II, Japan's military power was limited to self-defense as a defeated nation, but in 1992, Japan passed and implemented PKO law, which gave Japan legal cover to send troops overseas. After 3 amendments, the PKO law has significantly unblocked and expanded the activities of Japan's self-defense force from peacekeeping missions to the use of weapons, and their overseas deployments have become increasingly intensive, active, and even utilitarian. There were several firefights in South Sudan in July 2016. According to the PKO law, Japan is not allowed to send self-defense forces to the war-torn region. However, they refused to do so on the grounds that these are just skirmish. At the same time, in line with Shinzo Abe's long-standing claims of stability in South Sudan, the SDF in the region deliberately concealed their combat records. The scandal forced Abe to have Inada Tomomi, Japan's defense minister, resign in order to preserve his position as prime minister. Who was the first to send troops? You might not expect it. It's Bangladesh, one of the most important forces in the UN peacekeeping operations. Developing countries send many of their soldiers to peacekeeping operations primarily for economic and institutional interests. Due to their weak economic base, large populations, persistently high unemployment rates, and the fact they have no direct stake in the areas where the troops are needed. Whereas the number of soldiers sent by developed countries is generally low, the US for example, that's because of the policy adjustment and lack of interest. Deploying troops overseas is about expanding influence and protecting foreign interests. Peacekeeping is only humanitarian aid, but it's fraught with danger, so developed countries usually choose financial aid rather than manpower. On the contrary, China has been increasing support for UN peacekeeping operations in recent years and is taking practical actions to maintain peace in the world. As the second largest contributor to peacekeeping assessment fees and largest troop contributing country, held as a critical element and key force in peacekeeping operations. In the past 32 years of peacekeeping, Chinese military peacekeepers have left their footprints in over 20 countries and regions, including Democratic Republic of Congo, Liberia, and Sudan. 20 Chinese soldiers have died in foreign countries with no fear. That's the story told at the beginning. An army can create destruction or bring peace, depending on conscience and belief of the nation to which it belongs. Today is the International Day of United Nations Peacekeepers. Hail to heroes of peacekeeping! Thank you for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoy it.